welcome to my predictions of UFC 302, Makhachev vs Poirier. I will be covering the entire card, starting from the prelims, going all the way to the main event, and we're starting with the first prelim fight, which is Andre Lima versus Nyamjargal Tumendemberel. This fight's a bit of a tricky one. Lima is quite solid on the feet, good power, keeps hands high, very similar to Barboza, how he holds his hands, similar to Justin Gaethje as well. Overall, great striker with some nice solid leg kicks as well. Lima has a very big weakness with his grappling defense, was taken down at will by Igor Severino in their fight, before it ended via the bite, of course, by Igor Severino, the bite that got him kicked out of the UFC. Overall, hard one to pick. Lima, if I'm not mistaken, is a black belt in BJJ, but Nyamjargal has better takedowns, a better takedown offensive potential than Lima, but I don't see Nyamjargal getting a submission on Lima on the ground. I think I'll side with Andre Lima getting the decision victory in a crazy back and forth scrap. Hopefully he's improved in his takedown defense and is able to stuff any attempts Nyamjargal throws his way and get the win. And we move on. Ailin Perez versus Joselyne Edwards. I like Ailin Perez's style a lot. I think she will do great things in the sport. Perez has fantastic wrestling. Watch her hip toss around Ashley Evans-Smith in their fight. She did it like it was nothing. Hip tossing, kneeing her in the clinch. It was fantastic to watch. Joselyne Edwards has an advantage though on the feet. She has some nice boxing, good low kicks, can sprawl pretty well when someone's shooting takedowns, but she seems too willing to accept bottom position in the fight, especially a fight that I watched with her versus Pudilova, which she can absolutely not accept bottom position against anyone like Perez. If Joselyne can stuff all the takedowns and avoid the grappling situations, I could see her winning, but it just seems like to me this could be a bad matchup for Joselyne Edwards, and because of this, I'm going to go with Ailin Perez via decision win. It's close, but that's my pick. And we move on. Gall versus Bassil Hafez. Gall has been out for 2 years, and his last 2 fights were losses with a first round out cold KO loss versus Mike Malott. He tends to leave his chin up in the air as well during a lot of the exchanges. And Hafez has very powerful hands. I think Hafez has looked good in his fights overall. His last fight was a split decision loss to JDM, which is not a bad loss at all, and it was arguably a robbery decision as well. But we can get into that another time. That's really how close that fight is. He's got good striking, he's got a crazy chin, powerful punches, great grappling exchanges. I see Hafez winning this fight by whatever he prefers to do, stand-up or grappling exchanges. For my pick specifically, I'm going to say first round finish, most likely TKO, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a submission as well after rocking Gall on the feet. Next one is Niko Price versus Alex Morono. I'll be honest, I see this one being a stand-up fight between the two. However, Morono can throw up some submissions if it goes to the ground. I think Morono is just cleaner on the feet than Niko Price. Niko Price does rush in with big swinging punches, but Morono can be quite solid offensively and defensively in the stand-up department. I could see Niko Price clipping Morono, but I could also see him gassing out later in rounds 2 and 3. My final pick for this fight is Morono via decision, and I think this will be a stand-up fight like I said earlier, and I think Morono will be able to piece him up on the feet from the outside and get the decision win. Next fight is Rowe versus Jake Matthews. This fight was a close one. I had to go back and watch quite a bit of fight tape to make a decision on this one. I think Jake is very dangerous on the feet. He picks his shots very well at certain points. My only concern is about the volume coming from Jake Matthews, and I believe that Rowe does throw a lot more strikes, way more often. I do see the fight staying standing. Most likely, if anyone's going to shoot, it would be Rowe. Do I see Rowe knocking him out cold though? No. Matthews has a great chin. He's got good recovery when he's hurt. This was shown in his fight with Matthew Semmelsberger, if you've watched that fight. Great recovery. Man, this one's really a toss-up. My gut's just telling me that Jake Matthews catches Rowe on the chin, blitzing in, he gets the TKO finish, maybe in the second round, but this fight is a coin flip for me. Rowe could win a decision, but I don't know. I think I'll be siding with Jake on this one. I'm going to go Jake Matthews getting it done by TKO finish as my final prediction. Next fight is Grant Dawson versus Joe Solecki. Man, the UFC knows what they are doing with these matchups. Both guys are great in the grappling department. Both guys do lack offensive and defensive skill in the stand-up. Joe Solecki was beaten by Jared Gordon in the stand-up, and Grant Dawson can be caught on the feet, just like we saw him in his fight with Bobby Green. I think Grant's still very good all around though. Even though he lost by KO to Bobby Green in his last fight, I think Grant is more dangerous in the stand-up, and I don't see Solecki piecing up Grant Dawson on the feet or knocking him out. Sometimes when grapplers versus grapplers, the fight can turn into a stand-up brawl, so this does have that potential, but I think Grant has a slight advantage over Solecki in that department. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson getting the decision win over Joe Solecki. If they decide to stand up for most of the fight, I could even see Grant winning by second round KO. Next fight is Cesar Almeida versus Roman Kopylov. We move from a grappler versus grappler fight to a striker versus striker fight. I'll keep this one quick. I think that Kopylov may be too much for Cesar Almeida at this point in time. The guy's striking is too clean, too crisp. He has great finishing ability. I don't see Cesar Almeida putting away Kopylov like he has to his other opponents. I don't think he's on Kopylov's level yet, and for that reason, I will be picking Roman Kopylov by TKO finish in the later rounds, maybe the second round. We are out of the prelims and into the main card. The fight that starts off the main card is Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. This will be another striking battle most likely between two dangerous guys. Randy Brown is so long and is an absolute sniper on the feet, and I think he may give Zaleski dos Santos issues coming in from range. He also starts to lower his hands when it gets into the later rounds due to fatigue, and I worry about that going into a fight with someone like Randy Brown. Zaleski does have some really strong leg kicks, and that is a big concern going into this fight with Randy Brown, but my overall prediction for this fight is Randy Brown will win via later rounds TKO or decision win. If Randy Brown keeps a high output of jabs and goes out there and keeps a high volume, it's hard to see him losing. It is a fairly close matchup, but that's my pick. Jailton Almeida versus Alexandr Romanov. With this fight, I think if Almeida hadn't been finished by Curtis Blades, people would be glossing this over as if this was an easy win for him. He also would probably not be fighting Romanov, but that's beside the point. I think this will be an interesting one though. Depends if Romanov will be able to stuff the takedowns. This is also a massive step up in competition for Romanov. If he can't stop the takedowns of Almeida, I can see Almeida winning by late rounds finish, either TKO or submission on the ground. Romanov also looks like he gets a bit tired going into the later rounds, and I don't know how badly Almeida's grappling pace will affect his cardio. My overall prediction for this is Almeida by later rounds finish, second or third round, on the ground, TKO or submission by being able to dictate the pace with his grappling. Kevin Holland versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. I'm just going to start off with this. I think Kevin Holland gets it done by second round submission after hurting Oleksiejczuk on the feet. Holland has a rock solid chin. Oleksiejczuk loves to brawl and pressure his opponents with his striking. I just don't think it ends well for him since Holland does have very nice straight punches. He's got a great right hand. He does have power to rock you in the exchange. Definitely think it's either going to be first or second round finish for Kevin Holland if Oleksiejczuk decides to pressure him into a brawl. So to solidify that, my pick is Kevin Holland by first or second round by either TKO or submission. And we move on. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. I'll be honest, guys, it's crazy to think these guys are even fighting. Costa doesn't even deserve this fight as far as I'm concerned. He should be fighting Khamzat Chimaev, and Whitaker should be fighting Sean Strickland, but we move on. We can get into that another time. This is a 5-round fight, and Sean has some fantastic pressure and a high pace. Unless Paulo Costa puts him out cold, I don't see him matching Strickland's pace, and I can see Costa gassing out towards the 4th and 5th rounds of the fight. Costa did look great in his fight with Whitaker, and I do think there is a possibility he catches Strickland, but I think Strickland is the more technical of the two, especially defensively. He will do very well against Costa if he can get out of the early rounds of the fight with minimal damage. I'm going to go Strickland winning a decision or potentially beating Costa against the fence and getting a standing TKO win in the later rounds where the ref has to step in. And we move on to the main event. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. This is last but not least, but at the same time, this will be a quick one. Islam wins via submission in the first round is my personal prediction. I could see him rocking Poirier on the feet with a head kick since Poirier will be more tentative to rush in against someone with a grappling advantage like Makhachev. And if you are picking Poirier, I respect it, but it has to be more for your love for him as a fan and not from the style, stats, or the reality of the situation. I would love to be proved wrong, and in some way Poirier wins via guillotine in the first round, but it's hard to see anything else happening apart from Islam winning. That wraps up my predictions for UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.